Welcome to the Voice of the Agent Part 2. This survey we've been running since 2023 and it's our third year. This year we've broken up into 4 parts. The first part we did back in January, we talked about sales, lettings and marketing and the market more generally. This time I've got a great panel with me to talk more specifically about portals, PropTech, AI and a bit of a curveball, sustainability. So I am delighted to be joined by Chief Kerfuffler Simon Whale, from PBS's Matt Lee, by Glue Dog's Victoria Lambden. Again from Glue Dog we have Mark McCorry, and also we have Ben Marley from GeoCal. So I'm expecting quite a lively discussion today. And with that, we're going to start with a question that comes from your old manor, Ben. One of the things we ask about is portals and fair price and basically, is there an ROI in portals? Now, in our survey, agents consistently say portal pricing is somewhat or very expensive. Is this justified by the leads they generate, or have we finally reached the point where cost has outpaced commercial value? And what would a fairer price look like?
It's obviously something that's been banded around for years and years. 11 years ago when I started in portals, and it was, I think, still the same debate is going on now from then. Portals are often revered to as being a necessary evil. And if I could drop it, I would. You'd lose me tomorrow, etc., etc. But it doesn't. I still come back to, like, when people were paying probably more to go in print newspaper once a week, that they were reliant on someone looking at the paper on that day. Portals give people 24/7 access to their properties. They didn't have their own websites back then, etc. So, do they provide ROI? Yes. Could they possibly look at their pricing? Yes. Could agents actually stop just playing it's portals are putting my price up every year, don't get any more? Yes. Could they actually go, okay, this is the hand I'm dealt because I choose to pay this? If this is what I've got, then how do I best utilize this? And that's the hand that I would be looking at with this, is kind of saying, you're opting, you're choosing to pay this. You don't have to pay this. No one is forcing you to pay this. You might feel like you've got golden handcuffs that you've got to pay this money to them. You don't have to. You could leave. So
I was speaking to an agent owner yesterday, and he's just going through his negotiation on his pricing. Inflation is what? Single digit at the moment, you know? And a certain portal is putting the prices up by 18%. For no real reason apart from the fact they can. Again, I'll open this to the rest of the panel. Does this feel slightly oligopolist in terms of its behaviour? That they can just charge that pricing, so they do?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I think every business will look at what value that they provide. And I think if the shoe was on the other foot, what would you do? You know, if you feel like that your product is still being undervalued, you would want to put your price up. Whether it just so happens that portals obviously have, you know, literally every agent in the UK using them, so it often just causes massive disruption. But again, I think it just comes down to the perception of your own belief of what you believe your product is worth.
Anyone else want to talk about portals at this point?
I was just jumping in on the amount of agents we've trained in video over the years, and backing up what Ben said, there's the ability to not use them or use them. And some of the best agents probably don't need them, but then a lot of the worst agents rely on them, but then don't use them to their full potential. I mean, is it still true that Joe Public, most consumers that are looking, you know, in the market, will they still ask, are you on Rightmove? Is that still super important to the high street user? I don't know.
The research we got in the Voice Agent last year was being on more than one portal was really high in terms of customer expectations. And the data we've got in here, in this report, basically says 10 million people are uniquely using Rightmove, a chunk of people are uniquely using Zoopla, and a young chunk of people are unique. Consumers love portals. And I suppose the question is, who is the customer of Rightmove? Is it agents who pay? Or is it the homeowner?
You can be both though, can't you? You can have different, you know, kerfuffle, we have both the suppliers and the agents as ones there. And I think which is more important is the critical thing. And of course, the brutal truth is, whilst they've got the consumer, the agent has to be there. And I think again, just to make myself totally unpopular to the industry that served me well, agents have to be...
You already are unpopular, Simon.
No, that's not true. Is they have to stop being bipolar. They have to stop being the biggest cheerleaders, critics of Rightmove and the portals on one hand, and on the other hand, saying that they're absolutely indispensable in the marketplace. So if an agent ever does come off one portal or isn't on the other portals, what's the first thing that other agents use? They say, they're not on Rightmove.
Yeah.
It's like, once you've got that, they help build them up, they put the stickers in the windows and everything else there. And the simple truth is, you talk to the better agents, although they won't say it in public, because for fear of there being a double-digit price increase, when you get them behind closed doors, and we do a lot of these supplier MOTs, and we ask them to do the Net Promoter Scores, I think I'll talk to you about that later, they're quite popular these days, is as long as no one's listening, no one's watching, they understand absolutely implicitly the value of Rightmove and give it a high score on just that basis. The point is about the attitude, isn't it? It is about the attitude that they have it. And this is what always has frustrated me. I genuinely believe, because there's some amazing people there. We're lucky enough to all know people, at the main portals there. And to say that they don't care is an untruth. But there's something lost in communication with maybe board level, who deals with the market and everything else there and the share price, and those people at the coalface who are genuine, who like what you would have been when we were talking last night over a delicious curry. And, your aim, as was many people there, was absolutely to help them extract as much juice from it as they could do.
Yeah, but it's not just that. Sort of going back to the pricing model and making it fairer. Actually, when I had my business and I was just starting out, and you're sort of going to the lead portal and saying, well, look, I haven't got any properties yet, but when I do, what's the price going to be? And they sort of fire out figures of £1,200–1,300 a month, which at that time you are looking at the VAT element as well, because you're looking at your incomes and expenditure. Then their pricing model is completely outrageous. Completely outrageous. How on earth can someone who is just starting out afford that comfortably when actually other portals go, well, actually we'll do it for a few £100s, and once you've built it up, then we'll rank it up.
Do you know what, Victoria, though? There's a real communication issue there. So one of the things that Rightmove does fantastically well is they do, I think it's called the accelerator plan or something like that, where they do discounted rates for startups. Now, of course, it's all in their own interest. You get them on board at a discounted rate for Rightmove, and they're going to stick with you for the future. That's an obvious one. But they deal with some of the tech partners as well to get them better deals as well. Who knows about that? Not many people know, to be fair.
Well, the Rightmove account manager that I spoke to didn't. Maybe it wasn't around then, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a relatively new phenomenon, but I think that's the classic thing, is with just a little bit of a tweak. I had a look, because I remember on one of Peter Knight's groups, we had a speaker who was talking about, obsessing about price, the product and everything else. And it was a Rockefeller study that said 68% of consumers stop doing business because the company is indifferent to them. It's literally about not caring about them. What's fascinating is only 9% left because of price. It's the fact that people think they don't give a toss about them that's the issue here, isn't it there? So there's got to be a meeting of ways there, hasn't it, that says, look, we are increasing prices, but here's the reason why. My memory is, back in the old days, the portals in general used to justify their price increases by leveraging something. There would be some new feature, some new aspect was there. That seemed to stop at one time, and it just became price increases for the sake of price increases.
I've got a slightly different angle on the price increases. I do think this industry's got Stockholm syndrome. I think the job of a monopoly is to try and convince people you're not a monopoly. So Rightmove can point at Rightmove can point at Zoopla on the market and say, well, there are multiple portals, but the feeling of agents is we can't leave Rightmove. So they are a monopoly, and only a monopoly could put prices up at 20% a year, 15, 18, 20% a year, and agents feel like they still have to just accept it. I think if you had real competition in the market where agents feel they can actually switch portals, prices would be closer to £200 a month a branch.
But don't we have, in the world we live in now, it's network effects, is to the number one network goes the prize. So we had it with Facebook. We have it with Rightmove. And you look at the data in terms of how consumers feel about it, and actually where agents say their best leads are coming from. It's almost like there is Rightmove and then there is the rest.
I think you've got to be so careful about, what, you know, better the devil you know kind of thing there is. You're talking about that. They fought off the acquisition by realestate.com. Just to remind people again there, a listing per listing is almost £2,000 there. So when people are moaning about paying that, you know, here across the branch, I could never get my head around it. Admittedly, a lot of that is passed back to the vendor as vendor paid advertising, but it's leaving them with much less money to spend elsewhere. And the other thing is as well is where are we comparing this? We always hear that agents are crap with technology. I don't think that's true. Certainly the fact that they use 24 different bits of tech, you know, shown on our dashboard.
We'll come on to that.
Isn't there? Yeah, exactly. But I think the key one is just my favourite subject, Deliveroo, Uber Eats and Just Eat. They take 30% of the, you know, so these are, and I would actually say, I mean, I don't know that's not a monopoly, is it? I think they've got pretty equal spread there. Between the lowest one there is Just Eat at 14%, and the other two charge between 20 and 30%. That's a staggering pay away in terms of there. So, you know, what are we comparing it at? Is this just the way of the world? And then you've got a much bigger comparison and complaint to have, haven't you?
And I know, for my sins, I used to work in regional newspapers and we didn't care about raising our prices. And if you actually look at the inflation-adjusted prices, as you said, Ben, newspapers were more expensive. Yeah. And that's the reality we have to accept, is actually there is competition, albeit it seems to be slightly oligopolist. Actually, the prices of not using newspapers, it's cheaper for businesses.